How many times have you seen strikers get dominated by wrestlers? How many times have you seen wrestlers get submitted by jiu-jitsu artists? And how many times have you just seen an all-out striking war between two grapplers? MMA is complicated.
And in order for us to really understand what is the best way to fight in MMA, we're gonna have to dive a little bit deeper.
Boxers have one of the most powerful tools in all of MMA. Whether it's a sniper-like left hand, a sniper-like right hand,
Punches in MMA are so brutal. However, they have proven to have one big weakness.
the low kick. Leg kicks are shots that completely leave fighters limping during and after the fights. Just a few shots to the quad and maybe even fewer to the calf will debilitate an opponent and leave them limping bad after the fight. Let's analyze Conor versus Dustin 2. When Conor came in with the boxing approach, Dustin checked his stance with low kicks. As you can see, Conor's stance is pretty forward, making it easy for Dustin to hit him with low kicks and making it hard for Conor to adjust because of his stance. We've even seen this happen to Dustin himself against opponents like Jim Miller and Justin Gaethje. And speaking of kicks, kickboxers have elite tools that make them so special. When you mix punching and kicking together and start to get really good at it, it becomes a severely dangerous weapon. And not to mention, kickboxers have some of the coolest highlight reel knockouts I've ever seen in my life. And what I love the most about kickboxers is that it takes years of practice to master certain kicks. You can't just show up on the first day and expect to kick like Adesanya. But their kicks could cause their downfall. If the opponent can read their kicks and adjust to them, it can actually make the opponent's job of countering much easier as compared to reading and adjusting to punches. However, there is a way to avoid this. If you practice the art of feinting and develop a whip-like kicking speed, it'll make it extremely hard for the opponents to counter effectively. But a lot of the times, wrestlers will still look to catch that kick, and that's what they'll use to shoot for a good takedown. But now let's get into wrestlers. One of the most commonly used arguments for wrestlers is that once they get a hold of a non-wrestler, they are not going to let go. Which is true for a lot of the times, especially when dealing with your typical striker versus wrestler category. When wrestlers fight against strikers, strikers are usually outmatched and are unable to defend the very fast takedowns from wrestlers, and even when they do defend them, they're often overwhelmed from the countless shots wrestlers will continue to take even after strikers defend the first takedown. After the first takedown, there's a second, third, and probably 100th if you're fighting Marab. But I have noticed this very important concept that everybody has ignored. So during their training camp, strikers will often prioritize defending takedowns and getting back to their feet over being dangerous off of their back and on the ground, even against the cage. When wrestlers feel like all you're doing is defending and getting back up to your feet, there's really no threat being opposed to them, which doesn't stop them from shooting again and again and again. But if you show them that you're dangerous on the ground by throwing dangerous submission attempts and sweeps to gain a dominant position over just getting back up to your feet, the threat increases and the wrestler's motivation to shoot decreases. And isn't this the same reason why Khamzat had so much trouble against Gilbert Burns? It's because Gilbert Burns was throwing offense off of his back, and Khamzat knew Gilbert was an elite and dangerous jiu-jitsu artist, and he felt it during the fight. But is jiu-jitsu the answer to everything in MMA? Well, let's talk about it. Wrestlers without good jiu-jitsu usually lack the ability to control someone good on the ground. So someone with incredible jiu-jitsu is always a dangerous opponent, even if they're just butt scooting the whole time. Kidding, just kidding. I love you, Mikey. But on the topic of butt scooting, a lot of the time, some jiu-jitsu fighters don't have the same fast takedowns as wrestlers do. So it's hard for jiu-jitsu fighters to take people down and implement their game. The main way they can implement their game is when the opportunity comes to them. This opportunity being the opponent shooting for a takedown. Now, I'm not saying jiu-jitsu fighters can't take anyone down. They definitely can. But they can't do it at the same speed as wrestlers. So when they face strikers with really good takedown defense, it'll be hard for them to implement their game. So, what is the best space for MMA?
Well, it's actually all of them, but it's not as simple as that. If you notice some of the best fighters in the UFC right now, let's name them. Ilia Topuria, Islam Makhachev, Alex Pereira. What do these three have in common? Well, there's two things, right? All three of them are the best at one base, and they are incredibly good. They're incredibly high level at that base. The second thing is even more important. They're good in the other bases as well. Ilia Topuria is a monster. I mean, just KO'd Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway, especially a prime Max Holloway. You know his boxing is good. But he didn't even start out with boxing. He started with jiu-jitsu. So this is what makes him good, because he's a threat on the ground, but he's incredibly good on the feet. He has no holes in his game. Same with Islam Makhachev. You know, something I said in the video about wrestlers is that when they take someone down, it's hard for them to control them, but not for Islam Makhachev, not for Khabib as well. And the same with Alex Pereira. I know he's fighting Magomed Ankalaev, so now we can really see how good his takedown defense is, but so far it's been pretty good. It's on the Aldo fight, and I'm pretty sure he's improved much more since then. His takedown defense isn't on the same level as Ilia in terms of skill, but I think his striking just makes up